Abd Allah ibn Abbas, or Abd Allah ibn Abbas otherwise called, was born c. 619 CE. He was the nephew of the Maymunah bint al-Harith, who later became Muhammad's wife. He was one of Muhammad's cousin and one of the early Quran scholars. During the early struggles for the caliphate, he supported Ali, and was given the job of governor of Basra as a reward. He did not stay long and he withdrew to Mecca. During the reign of Muawiyah I, he lived in Hejaz and would travel to Damascus often. After Muawiyah I died, he opposed Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr and fled to Taif, where he died in around 687 CE. Abd Allah ibn Abbas was known for his knowledge of traditions as well as his critical interpretation of the Quran. From early on, he gathered information from other companions of Muhammad and gave classes and wrote commentaries. Biography. Family. He was the second son of a wealthy merchant, Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, thus he was called Ibn Abbas. His mother was al-Fadl al-Lubaba, who prided herself in being the second woman who converted to Islam, on the same day as her close friend Qadir bint Khuwaylid, Muhammad's wife. The father of Ibn Abbas and the father of Muhammad were both sons of Shayba ibn Hashim, better known as Abd al-Muttalib. Shayba bin Hashim's father was Hashim ibn Abd Manaf, the progenitor of the Banu Hashim clan of the Quraysh tribe in Mecca. 619 to 632. Muhammad Zira ibn Abbas was born in 3 BH and his mother took him to Muhammad before he had begun to suckle. Muhammad put some of his saliva on the newborn's tongue, and that was the beginning of the close relationship between him. As he grew up, he was by Muhammad's side doing different services like fetching water for ablution. He would pray with Muhammad and follow him on his assemblies, journeys and expeditions. Muhammad would often draw him close, pat him on the shoulder and pray, "O God, teach him the book," and Ibn Abbas devoted his life to the pursuit of learning and knowledge. Muhammad had also supplicated for him to attain discernment in religion. Ibn Abbas kept following Muhammad, memorizing and learning his teaching. Muhammad's statement in R10, Muhammad fell into his last illness. During this period, the hadith of the pen and paper was reported, with Ibn Abbas as the first-level narrator. At that time was around 12 years old. Ibn Abbas used to say, "No doubt, it was a great disaster that Allah's apostle was prevented from writing for them that writing because of their differences and noise." Days after that, Abbas and Ali supported Muhammad's weight on their shoulder, as Muhammad was too weak to walk around on his own accord. 632 to 634. Abu Bakr. Inheritance from Muhammad. Ibn Abbas was 13 years old when Muhammad died. After Abu Bakr came to power, Ibn Abbas and his father were among those who unsuccessfully requested their part of Muhammad's inheritance. Because Abu Bakr said that he heard Muhammad say that prophets do not leave inheritance. Continued education. After Muhammad's era, he continued to collect and learn Muhammad's teaching from Muhammad's companions, especially those who knew him the longest. He would consult multiple Sahaba to confirm narrations, and would go to as many as 30 companions to verify a single matter. Once he heard that a Sahaba knew a hadith unknown to him. A narration attributed to Abd Allah ibn Abbas reports, "I went to him during the time of the afternoon siesta and spread my cloak in front of his door. The wind blew dust on me. If I wished I could have sought his permission to enter and he would certainly have given me permission. But I preferred to wait on him so that he could be completely refreshed. Coming out of his house and seeing me in that condition, he said, 'O cousin of the Prophet, what's the matter with you? If you had sent for me I would have come to you. I am the one who should come to you, for knowledge is sought, it does not just come,' I said. I asked him about the hadith and learned from him." Ibn Abbas was not content just to accumulate knowledge, but due to a sense of duty to the Ummah, he educated those in search of knowledge as well as members of the general community. He turned to teaching and his house became the equivalent of a university, with specialized teaching and with him as the only teacher. One of his companions described a typical scene in front of his house. I saw people converging on the roads leading to his house until there was hardly any room in front of his house. I went in and told him about the crowds of people at his door, and he said, "Get me water for wudu." He performed wudu and, seating himself, said, "Go out and say to them, whoever wants to ask about the Quran and its letters, let him enter." This I did, and people entered until the house was filled. Whatever he was asked, Abdullah was able to elucidate and even provide additional information to what was asked. Then he said, "Make way for your brothers." Then to me he said, "Go out and say, who wants to ask about the Quran and its interpretation, let him enter." Again the house was filled, and Abdullah elucidated and provided more information than what was requested. He held classes on one single subject each day, classes on issues such as tafsir, fiqh, halal and haram, ghazawa, poetry, Arab history before Islam, inheritance laws, Arabic language and etymology. 634 to 644. Umar's era. Advising Umar often sought the advice of Ibn Abbas on important matters of state and described him as a young man of maturity. A narration attributed to Abd Allah ibn Abbas reports, "Umar used to make me sit with the elderly men who had fought in the Battle of Badr. Some of them felt it and said to Umar, 'Why do you bring in this boy to sit with us while we have sons like him?' Umar replied, 'Because of what you know of his position.' One day Umar called me and made me sit in the gathering of those people, and I think that he called me just to show them. Umar then asked them in my presence, 'What do you say about the interpretation of the statement of Allah, when comes help of God and the conquest?' Some of them said, 'We are ordered to praise God and ask for his forgiveness when God's help and the conquest comes to us.' Some others kept quiet and did not say anything. On that Umar asked me, 'Do you say the same, O Ibn Abbas?' I replied, 'No.' He said, 'What do you say then?' I replied, 'That is the sign of the death of Prophet Muhammad, which God informed him of. God said, when comes the help of God and the conquest, you should celebrate the praises of your Lord and ask for his forgiveness, and he is the one who accepts the repentance and forgives.' On that Umar said, 'I do not know anything about it other than what you have said.' The Sahaba Sabak, D. ibn Abi Waqqas said, 'I have never seen someone who was quicker in understanding, who had more knowledge and greater wisdom than Ibn Abbas. I have seen Umar summon him to discuss difficult problems in the presence of veterans of Badr from among the Muhajirin and Ansar. Ibn Abbas would speak and Umar would not disregard what he had to say.' 656 to 661. Ali's era. Battle of Siffin. Ibn Abbas remained a staunch supporter of the final Caliph Ali ibn Abi Talib during Ali's war with Muawiyah, including at the Battle of Siffin. He had also been given the position of governor of Basra during Ali's reign as Caliph. A large group of Ali's army were discontented with the conclusion of that arbitration, and broke off into a separate group that became known as the Khawarij. Ibn Abbas played a key role in convincing a large number of them to return to Ali, 20,000 of 24,000 according to some sources. He did so using his knowledge of Muhammad's biography, in particular, the events of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. 680 to 683. Yazid's era. Sunnis believed that Ibn Abbas was in favor of the unity of the Muslims and hence did not revolt against rulers. He advised Hussein ibn Ali against his proposed expedition to Kufa that ended at Karbala. Shias contend that due to coercion and duress he gave an oath of allegiance to Yazid, using taqiyya, wives and children by a Yemenite princess named Zara bint Mishra. Ibn Abbas had 7 children. 1. Al-Abbas, the firstborn, who was childless. 2. Ali ibn Abdullah, who was the grandfather of the first 2 Abbasid caliphs, who replaced the Umayyad in 750 CE. 3. Muhammad, who was childless. 4. Ubaydullah, who was childless. 5. Al-Fadl, who was childless. 6. Sa'd had 2 children. 7. Lubaba, who married Ali ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far and had descendants by a concubine. He had another daughter, Asma, who married her cousin Abdullah ibn Ubaydullah ibn Abbas and had 2 sons. Hadith transmitted by him. Ibn Abbas narrated that Muhammad said 2 favors are treated unjustly by most people: health and free time. From Sahih Bukhari, At-Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah and Al-Nasri. Ibn Abbas reported, Muhammad said, "He who does not memorize any part from the Quran, he is like the ruined house." From Tirmidhi on the authority of Ibn Abbas, who said, "One day I was behind the Prophet and he said to me, 'Young man, I shall teach you some words. Be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. Be mindful of Allah, and you will find him in front of you. If you ask, ask of Allah. If you seek help of Allah. Know that if the nation were to gather together to benefit you with anything, it would benefit you only with something that Allah had already prescribed for you, and if they gather together to harm you with anything, they would harm you only with something Allah had already prescribed for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried." From Tirmidhi, al-Hakim records on the authority of Ibn Abbas that Muhammad advanced, carrying upon his back Hassan ibn Ali, and a man met to him and said, "An excellent steed thou ridest, lad." Muhammad replied, "And he is an excellent rider." Ali ibn Husam Adan records that Ibn Abbas narrated that Muhammad said the following about his deceased aunt Fatima, the mother of Ali: "I put on her my shirt, that she may wear the clothes of heaven, and I lay with her in her coffin that I may lessen the pressure of the grave. She was the best of Allah's creatures to me after Abu Talib." Legacy. As Abdallah's knowledge grew, he grew in stature. Masruq ibn al-Ajda said of him, "Whenever I saw Ibn Abbas, I would say, 'He is the most handsome of men.' When he spoke, I would say, 'He is the most eloquent of men,' and when he held a conversation, I would say, 'He is the most knowledgeable of men.'" Ibn Abbas is highly respected by both Shia and Sunnis. His descendants' views. Ibn Abbas viewed that tafsir can be divided in 4 categories. The category the Arabs knew because of its language, those of ignorance, of which no one will be excused, those the scholars know, those no one knows except God. Sunni view him as the most knowledgeable of the companions in tafsir. A book entitled Tanwir al-Mikbas min Tafsir Ibn Abbas is tafsir, all explanations of which may go back to Ibn Abbas. Of all narrations transmitted by Ibn Abbas, 1660 were considered authentic by the authors of the 2 Sahihs. Regarding Ibn Abbas giving verdicts in favor of nikah mut'ah, most Sunnis view that Ali corrected him on the matter, while others view that Ibn Abbas' position on the permissibility of mut'ah until his last day is proven, for the hadith of Ibn al-Zubair and mut'ah. Sunnis describe thus: "The courageous Abdullah showed that he preferred peace above war, and logic against force and violence. However, he was not only known for his courage, his perceptive thought and his vast knowledge, he was also known for his great generosity and hospitality." Some of his contemporaries said of his household, "We have not seen a house with more food or drink or fruit or knowledge than the house of Ibn Abbas. He had a genuine and abiding concern for people. He was thoughtful and caring." He once said, "When I realize the importance of a verse of God's book, one would wish that all people should know what I know. When I hear of a Muslim ruler who deals equitably and rules justly, I am happy on his account and I pray for him. When I hear of rains that fall on the land of Muslims, that fills me with happiness." Abdullah ibn Abbas was constant in his devotions. He kept voluntary fasts regularly and often stayed up at night in prayer. He would weep while praying and reading the Quran, and when reciting verses dealing with death, resurrection and the life hereafter, his voice would be heavy from deep sobbing.